In wake of the news that Denver Broncos defensive end Eyioma Uwazurike is going to be suspended for the entire 2023 season because of violations of the NFL's gambling policy, the team desperately has to add some pieces to their interior defensive line. The most popular move amongst Broncos country, I would certainly endorse this. It's my favorite move that they could potentially make, is bringing back Shelby Harris. But if for some reason a Shelby Harris reunion does not happen, I have another option for the Denver Broncos to add to their defensive line, and he's somebody who, as much as it might hurt to say, might even be better than Shelby Harris is, and that is Matt Ioannidis, former defensive lineman of the Washington Commanders and the Carolina Panthers. So if we come over here and look at Matt Ioannidis' Pro Football Focus page, he's just going to be entering his age 29 season, so I feel like he still has plenty left in the tank, and I'm honestly not sure why he's still languishing on the free agent market at this point. He's 6'3" and 305 pounds, and he could play 3 or 5 technique for the Denver Broncos. If you're not familiar with what that means, that's essentially he can play interior defensive line, defensive end in this scheme for the Broncos. Now, for me, what really sells Matt Ioannidis is he's strong in both run defense and pass rush. Both the numbers and the tape back this up. In fact, last season, he was the 31st best out of 92 interior defensive linemen in terms of pass rush, which is certainly solid from a mid-level veteran player. I would absolutely take that kind of production on our defensive line and would have no qualms at all if Matt Ioannidis was brought in to be a pass rushing defensive end. He's also really solid in the run game as well. He was the 44th ranked interior defender with a 63.5 run defense grade. Matt Ioannidis is a guy who was able to generate some really strong games. I think of games such as the Steelers game for him, as well as the Arizona Cardinals game, where he generated pressure, he made an impact in the run game. Matt Ioannidis is a do-it-all interior defensive lineman and would be a strong addition for the Denver Broncos, and I just feel like they should bring him in anyway. I look at this grade chart here. He has some really strong pass rushing games. Again, that Arizona game, San Francisco, Atlanta again, the Detroit Lions. So he's got some really, really strong games mixed in there. And as a run defender as well, man, I'm seeing plenty of green in there, and even some light green, or some dark green there, which means that he had really strong games as a run defender against the Cardinals. That was a really strong game for him, and against the Los Angeles Rams. So overall, Broncos country, Matt Ioannidis could be a really strong addition to the Denver Broncos defensive line. And considering that I feel like the team's going to bring in at least 2 players for our interior defensive line, 1 starter and 1 backup, Matt Ioannidis makes all kinds of sense. The Broncos could very easily sign him to a deal and spread some of the salary cap into future years, basically create a bunch of void years on his contract, but only have it really be a 1-year deal, but mask it as like a 3 or 4 year deal, and you could kick some of that salary cap into future seasons. That's a benefit of having a cash-rich owner. So although the Broncos may be a little bit short on cap space right now, they could make a move just like that to clear up the space necessary to sign somebody like Matt Ioannidis. Now, aside from a veteran interior defensive lineman such as Shelby Harris or Matt Ioannidis, I feel like the team's also going to bring in a lower level, more developmental type prospect to potentially add to the depth at the interior, because right now, in light of the Eyioma Uwazurike suspension, our top depth option at the interior defensive line is Jonathan Harris. I know the Broncos like Jonathan Harris, but in terms of being our top rotational option, I don't know about that, because that would mean he'd have to see a lot of snaps. So either way you look at it, Broncos country, I feel like the team's going to bring in at least 2 interior defensive linemen, and strong candidates for that are Shelby Harris, Matt Ioannidis, and then some other developmental piece. Some other guys I've heard about potentially include former Detroit Lion and Los Angeles Ram Michael Brockers and former Pittsburgh Steeler Chris Wormley, but I'd consider them more lower tier options for veteran additions for the interior defensive line. I feel like we need somebody who's a lot more capable of being starting material, quite frankly. I've also heard the name Yannick Ngakoue thrown around, but the issue with him is he's not an interior defensive lineman. He's an edge rusher. The Broncos could do some mixing matching on their defensive line, kick Frank Clark inside. They could maybe move DJ Jones outside to defensive end, but I just don't really feel like that would be a good idea to mix and match on that level when you could bring in somebody who's a true interior defensive lineman and only have to fill one position as opposed to have to shapeshift multiple positions. So that's kind of how I see Yannick Ngakoue. If the Broncos want to bring him in to add depth as an edge rusher, then absolutely. But there's no way that Yannick Ngakoue, in my opinion, would solve our woes with interior defensive line. All right, Broncos country, I'm curious. How would you guys feel if the team were to bring in Matt Ioannidis? And how would you guys feel if they chose him over Shelby Harris? I know that's a bit of a tough subject for Broncos country. Drop those comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts as always. Be sure to leave a like on this video as well as subscribe and ring the bell so these videos appear in your notification feed. I would really appreciate it, guys. It tells the old algorithm to push us out to fellow members of Broncos country just like you and me and helps us get seen by more and more people. And until next time, guys, this has been another episode of Denver Broncos Syndicate. I am your host, Gage Madrid, saying peace out.